Welcome to our show tonight, Polygamy, What Love Is This? We hope that you all had a very happy New Year and a wonderful Christmas season this year. As is the case, every New Year there are people who come forward and they are posting dates of the end of the year, doomsday, and when Jesus is going to return. And that's happened again this year, as it does every year. But we just want you to know that you need to be aware of those predictions and those prognosticators, because Jesus said no one knows when He's coming back. He didn't even know. And certainly no other person can possibly know either. Jesus did say that we could know the signs of the times, but not the time. So don't pay any attention to them. If you want to read about the signs of the time, you can go to the Bible and read Matthew chapter 24. You can read Mark chapter 13, Luke chapter 17, and also chapter 1. And that will give you the signs of the times, or chapter 21, excuse me. But don't listen to those who want to name the date, the year, or the week that Jesus is coming back, because they are not telling the truth. I'm your host. My name is Doris Hanson. I was born and raised in a polygamy group, and we do our show about polygamy. And we're broadcasting live from the TV 20 studios in Salt Lake City, Utah, and we want to welcome all of our local viewers as well as all of our viewers in the Boise, Idaho, Nampa area who watch our show on Sunday afternoons on KCLP Channel 18. And we also welcome all of our live streaming video viewers who are watching our show around the world on the internet. And you might tell anyone who lives outside of our viewing area that they can watch our show every Thursday evening at this time on live streaming video. Just go to our website, whatloveisthis.tv, and click on the icon for live streaming video, and there you are. Now, of course, all of our previous shows can also be watched on our website, whatloveisthis.tv, on streaming video as well. And this is a telephone call-in program. Our telephone number is 801-973-TV20, 801-973-8820. We do appreciate your phone calls with your comments and questions, or you can email them to us at tv@aboutpolygamy.com. And on our website, whatloveisthis.tv, there are many links to many good websites with some wonderful information about our subject matter and about our culture. There's also resources that you can find. Two of our resources is, one of them is Lifting the Veil of Polygamy, the DVD, and also the Bible study book, Is Polygamy Biblical? And for anyone who has a Mormon-based background, or if you're interested in the subject matter, you can go onto the website sacredgrovesonline.org, and we are sure that you'll enjoy that content. On our website, you can also find information about our support group. It's called Life After Polygamy. We meet once a month. Our next meeting is January 17th at 6:30 p.m. And if your life has been impacted by polygamy in any way, you're welcome to come to our group meeting. You just grab a friend and bring them with you. And for more information about the meeting, the time and place, give us a call or email us, and we'll be happy to give you the information. And to find out more about our ministry, you can go to our website, shieldandrefuge.org. And if you're in a polygamy group and wish there were a way out, or if you have questions or problems that maybe we can help you with, just give us a call. We have a toll-free hotline, and the number is 877-425-9993. We offer you hope, we offer you a support system, and we are unashamedly focused on biblical truths. God has ordained and commanded monogamy, not polygamy. And God is not a schizophrenic where He has to change His mind back and forth like people do. It was monogamy first, and it's monogamy last, and everything in between. TV 20 and the ministries that are broadcasting from here are holding a coat drive, and it's on behalf of the Rescue Mission Homeless Shelter. And now through the end of February, we're accepting new or gently used coats for men, women, or children. Please be sure these coats are clean and in good repair, and they're going to be given to the homeless men and women and children who come to the Rescue Mission for help. You can drop them off here at the TV20 Studios, 314 South Redwood Road, from 9 to 4 p.m. On weekdays, Monday through Friday, or you can take them directly to the Rescue Mission, and the Rescue Mission is located at 5th South and 5th West in Salt Lake City, and you could take them directly there. And when you go to the building on the corner, there's a sign up there that says Jesus Saves, and that is the place. On December 16th show, Alice from Utah County called, challenging us when we said that the devil and Satan, or the devil, who is Satan, and Jesus are not spirit brothers. Alice insisted that it was in the Bible that they were, but she didn't know where in the Bible it was. Of course, we know better because it's not in the Bible that Jesus and Satan are spirit brothers. It's not even hinted at, but Alice insisted that it was. Well, we were telling her that she could read in Isaiah chapter 14, and then I said Ezekiel 38, and I need to make a correction there because it's not Ezekiel 38, it's Ezekiel 28. So you can go to Isaiah 14 verses 12 through 15 and Ezekiel 28 verses 11 through 19, Ezekiel 28, not 38, and read about the origin of Satan and how he became the devil. The angel that the Mormons call Lucifer, who is the devil or Satan, is a created being, and Jesus is uncreated. In fact, Jesus is the creator. There is no possibility that they could be spirit brothers. And I also want to mention that Calvary Chapel is holding a benefit concert. It's going to be January 14th at 7 p.m. The doors will be open at 6 p.m. and the suggested donation is $10. There's going to be people there to sing. There's a group called New Year, New Hope, David Elijah, Ricky Cardosa, and more. And all the donations are going to benefit New Hope House for Young Women, which is a ministry of Teen Challenge. So if you're interested in doing that, you can call Calvary Chapel for more information. Our guest tonight is a very sweet lady. She is courageous, not only in having the courage to get out of her polygamous marriage, but also to have the courage to get out of the polygamy group that she was born and raised in. She has the courage to appear on this show and tell her story, and that also takes a lot of courage. She was born and raised in the Kingston polygamy group. At one time, her husband had a few wives, and one by one, 3 of his wives left him because of his physical abuse and neglect. Our guest has also suffered physical abuse and other abuses from her polygamist husband, and she's here to tell her story. I would like to welcome and thank Rachel Kingston for coming on the show tonight. Thank you, Rachel, for coming.
It's good to be here.
It's good to have you here. You've got quite a story to tell, and we want to get through as much of it as we can, so okay. Let's just get going on it. When did you leave? Made your decision to leave, and when did you leave the Kingston group?
It was probably about August of 2009 that I started making plans to leave, and it was a few months later that I actually did. That you actually was able to get out.
But mentally and emotionally you were out quite a bit before that, weren't you?
Yeah, I was.
What about your children? Would you tell our viewers about your children?
Okay. I've had 5 kids, and 2 of them did pass away. I have a little boy that was run over in a driveway by the babysitter. Also, I did have a baby that she only lived for a few days because of numerous health problems, and like with my son, then it was really hard to get through his death because of with my husband and his family and different members in the group. Then they did like the same day that he died, then they actually came into my house and they wanted to go through everything just to make sure that there wasn't any evidence that they were any part of my life or that I was associated with them at all.
Afraid that there would be something made public that would...
And it was kind of interesting because they were really concerned about it being all over the media or having problems, and it just really bothered me because here I suffered a loss, and that wasn't even their concern. They didn't even care about that at all. They were focused about themselves.
Yeah,
so it made it a lot harder.
So you didn't get it. You weren't able to grieve properly as a mother with the sympathy of people around you.
I mean, I was just more expected to just get over it and move on. And anyone who's had a death, and it's just a really hard thing to get through. That's
a tragedy, losing your child in that way too. But they were just more concerned about protecting their polygamy group than helping you through that emotional. And the little girl, when she died, did they treat you the same way during that time?
It was pretty much the same way. I would have to say more of a harsher treatment. I think it was more difficult because it had only been a year since my son had died, and so I think it was more just stacking on and just really hard to get through because I was still grieving, even from before.
From the son.
And one thing that just really sticks out in my mind is we were at the hospital, and just right afterwards, and when my father-in-law came, then he just made a comment just in passing on the thing that usually happens is that it's something that the mother has done during the pregnancy, or that it's their fault because of the deformities or the problems that the baby has. And
it's always the mother's fault.
And we had even met with a group of doctors, and the thing that they really stressed mostly was that it wasn't anyone's fault. It's something that happens. And for the most part, you really don't have a lot of control over that.
Right. But he wanted to pile the guilt upon you that it was your problem, and they didn't have to bear any of the burden of it. But you've got 3 living children.
I do have 3 girls right now. They're ages 7, 6, and 2, and they're just the most amazing kids.
They're darling kids. I agree with that. They're very... What did your husband react? How did he react when he realized that you really were planning on leaving and that you planned on taking your children with you?
And the thing that had happened is that like you're aware, we had corresponded in helping me to be able to actually get out and leave. And there was one email that I recall that there was any mention of anything specific about the plans, and so it was on a Saturday that I had planned to leave, and the Friday before then it was my grandparents who were watching my kids, and they wanted to leave early, so I was going to come early to pick them up, and when I got there, no one was home. They had already left on their trip, and they told me that their dad had already picked them up. And I was just really frustrated because he never was the one that picked him up, and so I was, I guess, shattered and just really surprised. And when I did try and contact him, then he actually didn't even answer his phone, which most of the time he did answer the phone when I called, and so I was just really more worried. Because I was planning to leave and I didn't know what he was aware of or what he wasn't. I mean, and so it was actually kind of interesting because not long after I tried to get a hold of him, I got a phone call from an attorney's office telling me that there was a restraining order filed against me, and I was just in shock and just really scared to death. I didn't quite know what to do, and he wouldn't even give me any information. And so the thing that just really caught me off guard was the fact that it was a Friday, it was almost the end of the day, and knowing that the courthouse I could only get through until 5 o'clock, it was just right before that, and even attempting to get through, then I mean, it took quite a while, and it was nearly 5 o'clock before I got through and was able to get just a few details about what was going on, and even then that wasn't even much. And shortly after that, maybe around 5:30 or so, then I got a call from him, and he said, the judge's clerk wants to talk to you. And so they basically told me, we want to meet with you tonight at the courtroom. Can you come? And so I did rush over there, and I didn't quite know what to expect. When I went there, then he was there along with some members of his family, also some of my neighbors from the apartment building I lived in. And I was just so shocked, so upset, and I just didn't know what to think. And the only thing that was really, they talked about how I was trying to hide the kids, and so they basically, the outcome from court was just, you can't hide the kids, you can't take them out of state.
But how did he know that you were making any plans for that at all?
And that I don't even know anything beyond the email.
Just the email.
Any other way that he could possibly have known at all.
So do you think that they hacked into your email account?
I think it's very possible. I mean, he does have family, and there are other people that are very knowledgeable about computers and different things like that, it's very possible.
So he was watching with that. So your plans to get out as they had been made didn't happen, but your choice to leave was made public at that point. They knew that you wanted to leave at that point.
Right.
Well, let's go back to your life, your domestic and economic challenges while you were in the polygamy group. What about the apartment you lived in? Would you like to tell our viewers the beauty of the apartment that you...
The thing that had happened is the previous apartment we had lived in, then we were told that we had to move out because they were going to condemn the apartment, and so we did decide to move to a different apartment that was owned by the group, and I guess we kind of talked about the expenses and the benefits of either renting the apartment or buying the apartment, and the thing that had happened with that, I mean, we discussed that we would get a loan through the group, and then I would be making payments on the loan to pay it back.
You would be making
I would make payments to the loan company to the group pay it back.
To pay back the purchase of the apartment. You would, not him.
Right.
But you.
And after, I mean, I didn't make any of the decisions with the apartment. I mean, he set up all the rent and everything, and it wasn't until after I had moved that he basically told me that he had bought the apartment, he was making the payments, and I was supposed to pay him for rent, and what else could I say? I mean...
So you were paying your husband rent?
And that seems crazy. I don't know.
It is crazy. There's no other place in the world where this would happen but in the Kingston Polygamy Group. That's the only place things like this would happen. But there's worse. There's more to come. Tell about the apartment that he put you in and made you pay him for.
Yeah. Okay, like when you first come in, then there's some kind of drain hole that I tripped over most every time I went in, and there was some kind of pipe
in the floor.
Just in the floor, and I don't even know what that pipe was for. It came from like where the heater or the furnace and the water heater was, and so.
But it was a danger.
It was very dangerous,
and children.
And eventually, I think it was ripped out or something. I don't even know what happened with that. And as you come in, then like with the door, there was about an inch gap at the bottom, and
that keeps the heat in the winter, doesn't it?
And so during the winter, then it was freezing cold. We were using the heater more, and it was just hard to keep warm.
Wow.
And even in the living room, then the vent didn't work, and so that was the main room that should have kept warm, but it was kind of pooling from the other rooms, and so it didn't heat very well. Besides that, then a lot of the walls were just really old and peeling, and a lot of damage that it was basically falling apart. One thing that was, I guess, really an exciting time is like the stove was pretty old, and at first then it worked fine, and I had doubts about it because it seemed like it was an old junky stove.
Electric stove, right?
Electric stove. And there would be times that I would be cleaning it, and there was a few times I actually did get shocked by it.
It sparked on you,
It started
right?
sparking,
Yeah.
and I don't know, I just jumped back, and it just scared me to death. And I really always had to be careful when I was cooking so that I wouldn't get electrocuted, or even my kids.
Yeah, your children, the danger to your children as well. And the toilet leaked, there was mold around the bathtub, your cupboards were falling apart, holes in your sink, rusty old holes in your sink.
And even in the bathroom, then the ceiling right above the shower, then even before I moved in, it was just falling apart, and there were even times when I would shower that water was leaking from upstairs, and I don't know if it was from their shower, the toilet, whatever upstairs, but just...
And he expected you, and you did, pay rent to him to live in this horrible apartment. It was a dangerous place to live, and certainly something that probably should have been condemned too.
Yeah.
And then the amazing thing is that after you decided to leave and your husband was trying to convince you that you should stay, he promised to fix the apartment up if you'd stay, right?
No, the main things that he told me is that the apartment would be fixed up nicer for me, the carpets and the floors would be replaced, and even the cupboards. And
so he was admitting that it was unlivable
pretty
just
much.
by admitting that he could fix them up. Did he provide, now we know that he didn't provide housing for you. We know that already, and you had to pay him rent. What about food and clothing for yourself and your children? Did he provide that?
And he didn't at all. With the food, then he expected me to provide the food. There was times that if he decided to pick up something from the grocery store, then he would actually expect me to pay it back. And
he would come to your house for dinner, and he'd buy the grocery, and you paid him back.
Exactly. And so I feel like he never even I could have done better just getting it myself, because
amazing the mindset that would perpetrate this kind of thing. You know, I might mention here this group, the Kingston group, sometimes will claim that they're not a religion, but that they are a cooperative society of businesses who want to live and work with the idea of living the golden rule. Well, I'm here to tell you that none of the people that are treating women like this in that group want to be treated the same way themselves. And I also am here to tell you that I was raised in the Kingston Polygamy Group, and they are a religious institution. They're not just a group of businesses wanting to live the golden rule. And I also need to say at this point that 1 Timothy chapter 5 verse 8 tells us that a person who does not supply the needs and provide for their own households are worse than an infidel. Now, you can't get worse than an infidel, but God says you're worse than an infidel if you don't take care of your own household. So the polygamist families that are being treated so badly, like you've been treated, and there's many, many others being treated the same way, you're going to have to face God on this one. Believe me, God's not going to put up with it when you face Judgment Day. Tell us about your work. Did you have to work and earn, of course you did, your own living, right?
I was expected to provide the financial side of it. I did have a full-time job, and I was just working crazy hours, and I felt really bad a lot of times because I wanted to spend so much time with my kids, and I wasn't able to because it's expected to keep up on paying rent and...
So you had a full-time day job.
Finances.
You had a full-time day job, right?
I did.
And then you had to also, and this is not something that is rare in the Kingston group, you also had to get up early in the morning and do a newspaper route to supplement your income.
And the thing that happened with the newspaper route is I originally got the newspaper route because I didn't want to have to deal with the nagging about the finances and just any issues there. And so I did get up really early in the morning. I was expected to be there at 3 o'clock every day. Sundays
3 a.m.,
3
right?
a.m. And on Sundays I was expected to be there a little bit, at least an hour earlier, because the papers were bigger and you had to, and it took a little bit more time. And
Took more time to prepare
I even
them.
came the day before to prepare the ads for the Sunday papers, and so it was a
So you were
big
working
job.
up early at 3 o'clock in the morning. You would take your kids either to your grandparents, and sometimes you'd take them with you because they like to help
right.
you. And so you were sleep deprived.
I was, and it was really hard to just get through. I mean, it was almost like I was just a robot or something, just being there and not really feeling anything.
Yeah. And plus, you were the mother of 3 children, working 2 jobs, sleep deprived, paying every penny, 100% of your own support. He never supported you in any way.
He's never supported me.
In any way. This is not the way God would have any man take care of his family. When you finally were able to get out of there, pardon me, there was one last thing that you had hope for, to maybe undergird you, to help you through the financial problem of getting on your own feet, and that was a tax refund check that you were waiting for.
Right. And usually the thing that happened with the tax return is that they have different people that actually prepare the taxes, and then it's usually the husband that reviews them, make sure they've gotten every last penny that they can possibly get, and then they'll actually sign their spouse's name.
So you never signed a tax return?
There's maybe once or twice that I've ever signed any of my tax returns.
But your tax returns were sent out with your name on them, and you didn't even know what
and
was
I
going on.
didn't even know the amount. A lot of times they went to a different address, maybe where he worked at, his parents' house, anywhere else except for where I lived, so that I couldn't do anything with them or cash them or do anything about it.
So you didn't get your tax refund check that you were hoping to get.
And
to help you.
even with that, then I had, because I had planned to leave, then I did take more time to make sure that it was coming to my house and that I would have access to it. And when it was expected to come, then I had actually found out that he had changed the address to a post office box that I didn't even have access to, and so I ended up not getting anything. I didn't get any of that at all.
But he took that, and this is what's amazing. I need to bring this out. This refund check was pretty big because it had your earned income credit on it based on a low income that you had with being the provider of 3 children, right?
Right.
And it was made out with your name on it, and he took the check. You never saw it. You never got a penny of it. He deposited it to the general account of the Polygamy Group's general account, and I guess it must have forged your name.
And I actually did see a copy of the receipt through the IRS, and it wasn't my signature. It was something that he had signed.
Somebody else's signature. Okay. So finally, after, and this is so, folks, this is so immoral. The way that they do this is they got to keep their consecrated money for God. God needs all this money, you know, that they can't give it to the mothers with their children. So finally, after getting your case in court, and you actually got legal custody, you obtained legal custody of your 3 girls, so he didn't have it, and you were able to get out and into a safe housing program so that he would not be able to come and harass you and bother you and the children. And now you're faced with frustrating obstacles about getting a divorce. Let's get into the legal aspect of this, and I want to bring this before our viewers before we go to the telephones.
Okay.
And that is, they are dragging their feet, and you made the remark one time that you think that he's purposely trying to make it impossible for you to divorce him. But you can't get the proper legal representation because you don't have the money. $5,000 in legal fees that you've got racked up, and you can't pay them because you're not working. he hasn't been paying you money until just recently, I think, on child support.
Right.
Would you like to fill in on the details with this?
And the thing with that is, I mean, with him dragging things out, then I feel like, I mean, he has a lot of financial support behind him with the group, and the only financial support I've been getting since about the middle of last year was child support, but that doesn't even come close to even covering the legal fees, and it's just really hard to keep. There was even a time, like during Christmas, just arranging the parent time, that there was so much time spent on that was one of the times that actually drug out a lot of the financial part of it. And I mean, how hard is it for somebody to make some simple decisions like parent time or anything like that?
Yeah, he's just
I mean, it seems very intentional to me.
And they even got together and tried to make it so it worked out kind of a way, and I think it was just an intimidating technique for you to pay him alimony, right?
And I don't recall the exacts of it, but somehow in their figures then they had figured that I owed him some, even it was just a small portion, but they figured how I owed him alimony, and that seems crazy, being that he hasn't supported either me or my kids. I mean, he hasn't provided at all, and here he is expecting some sort of return on that.
Right, expecting you to pay him. And you know, folks, this is my soapbox. This is one of my soapbox, and I'm just taking a minute right here. Rachel's frustrations and her financial disaster and lack of help, financial help or anything else, from those who should be helping her most is typical of many mothers of children who want to get out of polygamous situations. It's one of the frustrations that we face in our ministry all the time, too, when we come across a situation like this, because their husbands and the polygamy group are the ones who hold the purse strings, and they've got a lot of money behind them, believe me, and they make it impossible for women like Rachel to succeed, to actually get out and progress. And this effectually feeds the inequitable polygamous system from which Rachel and others like her are trying to escape. It continues to victimize her and the children, and it keeps her in bondage to a religion and to an illegal marriage that she is trying to escape from. And my question is, what in the world is wrong with our society and our legal system that we tolerate treatment of women and children like this, and the barbaric actions, and it seems like the support of the people who are perpetrating these actions on these women? It's unthinkable. It's unbelievable that this stuff goes on in this society today. And they're trying to make it legal to do this stuff. It just blows my mind. By the way, if any of our viewers out there would like to help out at all with Rachel's legal expenses so that she can go forward with this, you can contact and do it through Shield and Refuge Ministry and help her pay her legal fees. We are a tax-exempt organization, and if you would like to, you can give us a call or email us tv@aboutpolygamy.com. Rachel could sure use that help. We are at a time now where we need to stop and invite our viewers to make some phone calls. There's lots more to talk about if we get the chance to. Our phone number is 801-973-TV20, 801-973-8820. But before we begin taking phone calls, we would like to show a film clip which will remind our viewers of some of the other work that Shield and Refuge does in the polygamous communities. So let's watch the tape. Are you thinking of leaving your polygamous situation? Are you afraid to leave because you might lose the love of your friends and your family and perhaps even the love of God? Are you afraid you'll become destitute if you do leave? When I ran away from my fundamentalist upbringing and the polygamy environment I was raised in, I had no safe place to go, no place that I knew that I would be safe after I left. And I was so naive, I didn't know that I was exchanging one bad situation for another one. In those days, there were no organizations established to help people who needed to safely exit a polygamist environment. That's why a Shield and Refuge ministry exists today. We're here to help those who want to leave a polygamous situation safely and without fear. We do provide you with a safe refuge, and you will be shielded from those who would harm you. So if you're thinking of leaving your polygamous situation, give us a call. We're here waiting to hear from you. Our telephone number toll-free is 1-877-425-9993. If you have access to the internet, you can locate us at www.shieldandrefuge.org, and you can contact us immediately, day or night. We would love to help you. God has made a promise in Psalm 91:4 that He shall cover you with His feathers, and you can take refuge under His wings. And it's His truth that will be your shield. Well, we will help as we can anyone who is interested in getting out of their polygamous situation, if it's abusive, or if you have questions, or you finally realize that this isn't God's way for your life. Just give us a call, 877-425-9993. We do have our lines full, but there's no one yet on the screen, so we're going to continue with some questions with Rachel. Our number is 801-973-8820. Now, as far as the delaying tactic, your case has been in court now for well over a year,
Right.
and yet you've made little, if any, progress. Would you say that this is a delaying tactic that is maybe perpetrated by your husband and his attorneys just to make it miserable for you, so you might give up and come back?
Like I mentioned before, then because of their resources, then they're able to drag things out as long as they want to, and there's no rush for them to get anything done. They could drag it out forever, and
And it wouldn't hurt them, but
it wouldn't have any effect on them, because they'd still be living the same way they do. They'd be still doing the same things they do, and nothing would really impact that.
but it makes it awfully rough for you. I want you to also tell our viewers, if you will, you've been doing your part to get yourself on your feet, to progress further in this, and to find yourself completely removed from the need of his help. What have you done? Tell us what you've done.
And for the last year, then I've actually been going back to school, and it's in massage therapy, and I did recently graduate in December, and right now then I am actually going for my master's to kind of tie things together and make it
And
an
I
even better
have to
situation.
congratulate you, Rachel. You've gone forward with courage and with determination that you're going to make a better life for yourself, and that's the kinds of people who make it. I really have to congratulate you. You're doing very, very, very good job, and a good mother too. Now, your husband claims that he doesn't have any money to pay the child support that the court thinks he needs to pay, and yet didn't he recently go on a pretty nice vacation and purchase 2 new or fairly new vehicles?
And he actually had mentioned to my kids that he was going out of town. He didn't get into any specifics, but I really thought that was odd if he doesn't have any money. And same thing with the vehicles. I did actually see him in a different car than what he had previously, and also from my kids, and they said that they did have another vehicle. And
So he just doesn't want to. He hasn't wanted to support you from the day you got married to him as a polygamist wife, clear up until now. I mean, it's just
pretty
obvious
much in name only, and why would I? Or just that the finances don't matter. I mean, that you just have to provide for yourself. That's just what's expected.
They've got a funny idea of marriage, don't they? What would you like to say at this point to someone who's watching our show, and maybe they're thinking of either entering into a polygamous marriage, or maybe they're thinking of getting out of a polygamous situation, but they're afraid to? What would you have to say to someone like that?
I think your first concern needs to be what's going to be in the best interest of you, and if you have kids, what the best interest is, because the thing that seems to happen is that they just tear you down and make you believe that you're not worth anything. And even with myself, I did get my GED, and it was after about 10 years since I had gone to school, and so it was just really hard all these years that I didn't feel like that it was okay to continue my education or be more
there's no value in getting an education
if you're just going to be handed your job and do what you're just like, here's your job and this is what you're supposed to do. I mean, you don't really, I mean, maybe it does give you a job, but it doesn't really give you much freedom in what you do.
And let's clarify your daytime job. You were working the 2 jobs, and of course the newspaper job can be done without a higher education.
Right.
But the job that you had during the day was a job within the polygamy group in a business that they owned, and they put you in that job, right?
Right, and I did shuffle around to a few different of the family businesses, just wherever they thought that I would work best and what suited their best interests at the time. And so, I mean, I do feel, I can't say that I haven't come away with nothing from the jobs, because I have...
you have experience.
I have experience, and I have been more comfortable opening up and eventually getting the courage to even get out and get away from that situation.
That's true, that's true. We have an off-the-air question. How many wives did he have? What number of wife were you? And did they all support themselves?
He's had up to 4 wives, and I couldn't say for everybody. The thing that really happened was that I felt like we were more just, I mean, other than family meetings and talking about what we were supposed to do, I feel like we were more kept apart to not discuss how things were between each person. So I really don't know whether he supported any part or all, or what the situation was then. It was never talked about.
So you don't know if all of these wives were supporting him and he was just, walking around never having to worry about spending any money on his wives and family.
For all I know, then, I mean, that's very possible, but I really couldn't say for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, we have calling, it looks like a polygamist is calling on line 2, Rob in Salt Lake City. Hello, Rob. Hello, Rob.
Okay.
Yes, Rob?
How you doing?
Hello, you're on the air. What is your question or comment?
Hey, I have a question for Rachel.
Okay.
Has your husband ever taken you on a honeymoon?
And I don't believe that we've ever been on a honeymoon. There was one time that we did actually go on a trip, and it was just more to kind of fix the relationship, try to smooth things over, to get things back into putting me in my place and putting me in order how things are supposed to be.
Rob, may I ask you why you're asking that question?
Well, supposedly they have all kinds of money, and I just wonder why they don't use the money that they have to support their women and take care of them.
It's a good question. That's a question we'd like to ask them and ask them to answer. This particular polygamy group, Rob, they believe that every penny, every red cent that a person has is to be turned into the group, into their general fund, and consecrated to God, to God's work. And that no money can be spent whatsoever unless it's absolutely necessary, and it has to be consecrated to God first before you can spend it. And so they're very, very tight when it comes to letting money out, but they want every dime turned in that they can possibly get. What group are you from? It says you're a polygamist. So do you mind saying if you're independent or if you're in a particular polygamy group?
Just in one that's pretty ruthless.
Ruthless?
But
Are you a polygamist, Rob?
what's that?
Are you a polygamist yourself?
No.
But you're in a polygamy group. Is that right? Hello?
One question I got for her.
Okay,
is,
go
Tell
forward.
me what you said again.
No, just go forward with your question.
Oh, has she ever talked to the main guy that was the head of the group she's talking about her problems with her husband or any of that?
No, I did never have a chance to do that.
For being the shepherd of the flock, he wasn't a whole lot interested in
And I didn't really converse with them much, and so, no, I did never even, I mean, I didn't feel like that was even an option in the family that I was in. It was, I think they more wanted to solve the issues themselves than to drag the leader into it.
I see.
Does that answer your questions, Rob?
Yeah, kind of. There's rumor has it they got a bunch of gold bars and silver bars and that, and I just thinking they ought to.
That's not rumor, Rob. That's real.
Take care of their women a little better.
Yeah, not rumor.
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just discovered too in a newspaper article last week that this new Legacy Highway, they want to be able to develop all of the land west of the Legacy Highway, and the Kingston Group holds 300 acres of that land. That's going to be a gold mine, another bunch of gold bars for them. Line 1, we have David calling from the East Coast. Hello, David.
Yes, Doris.
Yes, you're on the air.
You there?
Yes, you're on the air. What's your question?
I'm on the air. Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to give a shout out to Rob Zavolka. That's how I know about this show and your website.
Okay,
and you
good.
as well.
Yeah.
And I guess my question is, I don't know if, how it was dialed in by Phyllis, but how do you, and your guests as well, how do you reconcile the fact that great men of the Bible, like David, Solomon, men who wrote portions of the Bible, were themselves rank polygamists?
They were ranked polygamists? We don't reconcile it. The fact is they did. David lived polygamy. That's truth. And so did not Isaac, but Jacob. And
I guess my point is, and I'm an evangelical Christian, I'm not a Mormon, I'm not a fundamentalist Mormon, never have been, that it was bad. I mean, don't get me wrong. Polygamy is wrong. But you got to admit, I mean, if you read the first 5 books of the Bible, the Torah, it even allows for polygamy. Like, it allows for slavery. So I think it's bad.
it doesn't allow for it, David.
It's not that bad. I hate to say that, I mean, because it is bad. But it was allowed.
David, it wasn't allowed for. It was done. It just happened. But it wasn't allowed for. It was never anywhere will you find that God condoned it, commanded it, or said it's okay, go ahead and do it for now.
Well, how do you get around the fact that in the Torah, I mean, there's sanctions and there's laws governing plural marriage?
There's laws governing murder. There's laws governing rape. There's laws governing all the sins that mankind can do.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no difference with polygamy. There's laws governing it. God knew that we were going to sin. That's why He gave us a sacrifice.
I mean, slavery's wrong.
Well, let's not get, David,
There's laws in the Torah.
David, we're not going to get off topic here. We have a guest here, and we want to stay on topic with our guest.
I don't know what to talk, I mean, because I'm just calling in. So I would love to interact with the guest, so I don't want to get off topic at all.
Well, that's what we're doing.
I totally feel you
if you have a question for
Rachel.
Rachel.
She's coming out of polygamy, a fundamentalist Mormon group. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. I guess my heart goes out, and this is my comment, and because I've interacted with Mormons extensively on this.
Okay.
And so I'm not condoning polygamy. I think it's wrong. I don't think it's what God designed. Don't get me wrong. I'm kind of playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
But it's simply this. I think the difference between polygamy in the Bible, especially Old Testament, and that you see even in the world today,
David, do you have a question or a comment that you would like to make to Rachel?
It's this right here. Is it simply that God, there's nowhere a mandate in the Bible, unlike Mormonism, that says you have to have multiple wives to get into heaven. And that's one of the, I guess you could say, the sickest portions that I see of Mormonism, is that it actually, it says that if you don't engage in plural marriage, you don't get to be with the fullness of the Godhead. And that's really, really bad.
That's wrong,
really,
because
really sick.
the only
even the polygamists that are around today in times past, they were just polygamists, but they didn't link it with
salvation,
religion or God.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right. Absolutely right. And polygamy is wrong from beginning to end, but Joseph Smith took it to a new depth of evil when he said it was commanded for salvation.
And it wasn't just him. Even the Mormon leaders after him, Brigham Young, John Taylor.
Right, all of the leadership. And the
other prominent Mormons as well.
And all the polygamy groups today.
Whitewashing.
Right, okay.
That's gone on in history, Mormon history.
Okay, David, we appreciate...
In regards to that, but, I mean, you probably know better than I do the quotes by Brigham Young in terms of the...
We got another call to go to, David. Thanks for your call.
You're welcome.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye. Okay, we have Mike from Orem calling. Well, maybe we don't. Maybe he got tired of waiting. Mike, we didn't get your call. If you want to call back, feel free to give us a call and ask your question or make your comment. And right now, I also would like to say that it does take a lot of courage for someone like Rachel to come on the show and tell her story. She's got a story to tell. It's very important. And we would like to be able to interview more people who have successfully exited polygamy groups. But many of them would like to talk, but they're afraid to. They're afraid to go public for it's too painful, or else they're afraid for maybe some kind of retribution. I have talked with many people who have left polygamy groups, men and women who have escaped, children from parents who have escaped, and they've told me their stories, but they won't go public with them. And I fully understand their fear. It took me years and years for me to be able to have the fear, to get out and have the courage to talk, to let go of my fear and have the courage to talk about my experiences. But once I discovered that God was not angry with me for running away from polygamy. In fact, I discovered God's deep and intense love for me. In fact, it was a love so personal for me that took him to the cross to pay for my sins. Once I knew about that love, I knew that his love would cover me, and my fear began to dissipate. I realized that if people don't speak up and speak out like Rachel is tonight about their polygamy experiences, the polygamy problem will never go away. It'll only get worse. And that's exactly what's happening. So if there's anyone in our viewing audience tonight who would like to come and tell their story, give us a call, email us, tv@aboutpoligamy.com, and we will get back with you. We'd love to hear your story. It is very important. Okay, now we have Mike. He's back from Orem on line 2. Hello, Mike.
Yes.
Yes, you're on the air.
I'm here.
You're on the air, Mike.
Okay, I'm on the air.
Okay, what's your question or your comment?
Hello.
What's your question or comment, Mike?
I'm talking about her husband committed a crime of fraud when the IRS and he signed that check over to himself. I was wondering why she didn't pursue that and get him arrested, because that is a very big crime in the United States.
Mike, she did. She contacted the IRS. Do you want to say what happened?
Have they done anything about that?
I did go to the IRS, and I did actually file charges there, and they're actually still doing an investigation on that. So I imagine that there's going to be some kind of back fees that will be owed to him.
I'm glad you did that. Well, good luck with everything, okay?
Thank you.
And I won't take any more time.
Thank you, Mike. Okay. When you entered into polygamy, when you were growing up in the group, born and raised in the group, and you entered into it, why did you do it for your salvation, or did you just do it?
I think that was the biggest reason, because just growing up in the lifestyle, then it seems like you just follow suit in what you're going to do. It's not maybe not necessarily something that you're told regularly, but just something that you feel like is expected of yourself to be able to when you do die, to be able to go to the highest degree of glory and live with God, and so it was just more of that spiritual thing, and just, I guess, the fear of being cast out into darkness and
outer darkness. Yeah.
And
did you know it was illegal when you married in the polygamy?
it was never really talked about really being illegal, but I didn't find more out about that until later on after I was married, and that wasn't really even a concern there, just because as long as I'm doing what I'm supposed to, as long as I've married the right person and that he'll get me to where I'm supposed to be,
then
regardless of,
illegal.
and the consequences wouldn't even be there.
Yeah, so information control is a big part also of these groups. Well, it's time for us to start winding down on the show. I want to thank you, Rachel, for coming very much.
Well, thank you for having me.
Appreciate you being here, and for our callers for calling. And one of the purposes of our show and of our ministry is to present biblical truths, hoping that our polygamist and our LDS viewers will recognize the fact that they have been caught in the trap that Jesus warned us against, believing and following false prophets and false doctrine. The simplicity of the true gospel of Jesus Christ is a stumbling stone to those who want to work for their eternal life. It's illogical to them to even think that eternal life could possibly be a free gift. I was taught that the law was our ladder to heaven, and if I finally succeeded in keeping the law, then I made it. But the law was not given as a ladder to heaven. Instead, it is God's standard to teach us that we can't measure up, that we are hopeless and helpless sinners, and so that we might turn to God through Jesus Christ and pray for His mercy and grace to save us. God gave the law to be a mirror. We look into the mirror to see our dirty face, but we don't use the mirror to clean the dirt off our face. As a mirror, the perfect law reveals our sinfulness, but it doesn't cleanse us from our sin. Only the blood of Jesus Christ on the cross cleanses us from our sins. His death on the cross pays our sin debt in full, but only when we trust Him and Him alone for our salvation, not trying to earn their salvation for ourselves. Don't use the law for a purpose that God never intended for it to be used, because you can't keep it. Next week, our guest is going to be Aaron Shafavalov. We will discuss the question, does God sin? We know that you're going to love that show, so please stay tuned, and thanks for watching tonight. Good night.